All right. I announced to nobody that I was coming on because I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure I was going to hit go live until I just did it. So I'm going to actually sit here and center myself for a minute, or at least try. And then whatever is meant to come through will come through, and whoever's meant to hear it later will hear it later. It literally feels like I felt this before. I used to feel this sometimes before I started a big summit or, certain special events where there were a lot of people tuned in, and I really felt the energy rising. And it was really hard to get myself back in my body, grounded in my body. So I'm just going to focus on that for another half a minute or a minute, since I gave no prior announcement. And then I'm just going to be here and see what comes through, because I originally intended to live stream as close to daily as I could during the 6 weeks of the challenge. I mean, we've only gone through 2 weeks so far, and there are another 4 weeks, but I did not live stream all this past week. And I think that's because there's so much crazy energy all over the place that it's hard to put it into a capsule. I did a medium amount of research on the Torah meaning of eclipse. I feel like I haven't officially started yet, so maybe I should just take another few deep breaths. I see there are a few people on now. Thank you. So I think in the last live stream that was specifically on the eclipse, I mentioned that I had read in a book years ago, quite a few years ago, that Heart Math did some research, the Heart Math Institute that researches the effect of the energy field of the heart on reality, on the physical world. So that Heart Math had done some research that correlated certain events, certain global events where a lot of people were focused on the one event. So they correlated that with changes in the Earth's magnetic field. A couple of examples that they gave that I saw in this book were the death of Princess Diana and 9/11. So there's a tremendous amount of energy focused on. I hope you don't mind if I have my eyes closed. Sometimes that has to happen when I feel things swirling all around. And it feels like there's just a gathering. Okay, let me finish my thought. So when a lot of people on the earth, I can only speak for the earth, are focused at the same time on one thing, so it creates a spike in the frequency and the power of the Earth's magnetic field. Isn't that crazy? And the Earth's magnetic field has a reciprocal and continuous effect on how we feel. So we're literally in this kind of feedback loop where we're giving energy, not consciously necessarily, but we're giving energy through our collective attention, focus, and especially emotional energy. Feeding energy to the Earth's magnetic field, and then it's feeding something back to us. That's just one example of the power that we have to help shape reality. It's also crazy that there was a solar eclipse. There have been solar eclipses before in our times. There was one in 2017. There might have been one in the 60s or 70s. Whatever. It's not like something that has ever been associated with massive global change. Why is it that so many people are focused on this eclipse? Why is it that so many people are expecting? Some of it is the news. Some of it is the usual, either fear porn or keep them guessing psyop or whatever that gets foisted upon us. Some of it is that. Some of it is the fact that there are a lot of governors of states in the US to Sarah Huckabee Sanders, who's a legitimately white hat person, certified, just declared a state of emergency in her state. I don't remember which her state was, but is. So that's strange. And that influences the way that we feel. And then there are the, indigenous peoples who are feeling like there's a download of new energy into the earth. And then, and this is what I think one of the things that's actually been holding me back, because there's so much energy around the eclipse and so much confusion. So I actually struggled through, was it last Thursday night? I think it was Thursday night. I struggled through somebody in a group that I'm on sent me a discourse of the Rebbe on eclipse. I asked as a group of very, very learned people, and somebody just dropped that sikha, that discourse. I don't think that there are so many. And honestly, an eclipse is not considered to be a positive sign. Now, I spun it in the last live, and I put this piece together with that piece, and we'll get to something good very soon. I'm not going to leave it like that, but an eclipse is considered a warning. There's no blessing that you say on an eclipse. It's true that a solar eclipse is better for at least for the people of Israel. It's true that an eclipse isn't supposedly able to affect, or not there to affect people who aren't in the vicinity of the eclipse. So it's specific to the places where it shows up. The Rebbe actually said if it's covered by clouds and you can't see it, so then it's not a warning. But then, so I'm not going to go through the back and the forth. I just want to bring out a couple of strong points that I think we need to really pull in. And I'm praying now that I can that I can create enough vessels in my, calm vessels in myself to actually receive and transmit this. So the Rebbe said that like we know astrologically, astrology is it's an art or science. It is valid. Pharaoh's sorcerers used it. It can be validly used to predict tendencies that we have. We're not allowed to use it for predicting, at least according to Torah. Torah followers are not. And the reason for that is because astrology is like a mechanism, like astrology is a science or art of the movements of the constellations and the heavenly bodies and their interactions, their orbits specifically. I think it's Maimonides who says that the Mamutza, the connecting factor between the spiritual and the physical worlds, I've said this before, the orbits. It's actually the orbits, the paths of the heavenly bodies, how everything is moving through space, that like macro cycle. And those are controlled by the cycle angels called Opanim. And it's true that they create influences in the world. So if you're born at a certain time, it is true that your soul, as it comes down, is affected, colored in a certain way, molded in this life by those influences. It's going to give you certain tendencies. You're going to have certain tendencies, abilities. Certain things are going to be easier for you because of the influence of the stars that you were born under, so to speak. Certain things are going to be harder. That's a valid thing. And the Rebbe said that is the case with eclipses also, with things that happen times that are under certain astrological influences. Days, weeks, whatever, years, that also create tendencies. So there might be a tendency that things could go wrong. There might be a tendency of people making bad choices, just like if you're born under the influence of certain stars, you're going to have certain tendencies, but it is never, ever for us to feel like victims. We are not here to be fatalists. Fatalism is a lie. Fatalism is based on false beliefs. Even when people read prophecy is malleable. When people read prophecy and they assume that means that there are physical things that we have no choice but to go to, that's a lie. That's a false belief. It's possible that we will go through things in prophecies. Many prophecies have come true. Some prophecies seem to have been lightened, at least so far from what I can see. Prophecies are malleable, so they have to have the negative prophecies. The positive prophecies are literal. They're God's vision. They will come to be. But anything that is potentially negative, we are here to influence that thing. It's only here in order to bring out something from us that otherwise wouldn't come out. And if you want, you can just use this easy visual of a weightlifter. You go to the gym, there's heavy weights. The heavier the weight, the slower you lift, the more concentration, the more effort you put in, the more your inner strength is going to come out. If you didn't go to the gym, that's what exercise is actually all about. You're taxing yourself. You're stressing yourself on purpose in a positive way. It might hurt, but it's a good burn, right? So when we know that we're actually, and this is actually very connected to the challenge in general, it's one of the most important principles that any of us can wire in. We should wire it in so deeply that we never separate from it, that everything that's a challenge is here literally for one reason, only one, and that is to bring out our hidden potential. The purpose of every challenge and obstacle is to help us reveal the miraculous potential and power of our souls. That is not a lie, that is the truth. So that's true with personal events and inner events, our emotions, whatever, our struggles. It's also true cosmically and globally. So our goal, our job as human beings is to stop being stuck as victims of the influences, whether of the stars or of our upbringing, or of our belief system, or of how other people think of us, or of our relationships, or of any of our circumstances, to move away from victim. And I'm not saying it's easy to move away from victim of anything and to become co-creators, because as the verse goes in Torah, the stars were not given to you to be under them. They were given to the nations to be under the stars. You are meant not to be under them. And when I say the nations, I do not mean our beautiful non-Jewish brothers and sisters who are learning Torah and who want to serve God. That's not called the nations. The nations in this context are those who don't believe or who fight against the Torah, the divine mandate, the divine blueprint. So we're meant to be above the stars. Now, here's the next thing. I want to talk a little bit about lights and vessels. Actually, let me just sum up here. So the eclipse is meant to bring out, like the war here, as insane as that seems and still seems, things are harder to understand all the time, not easier in terms of what's going on around us. But we can hold on to the one principle with absolute clarity, that anything that happens, including things that challenge our ability to understand, anything that happens is like the weights. It's here to bring out those hidden miraculous powers of our souls. So we're not meant to be under the stars ultimately. And here's the other piece about the eclipse. I'll finish with this, at least for now. And by the way, I am thinking of having him tune into the chat, just trying to keep myself together. It's taking a lot of energy. So I just lost it for a second again. It's just all this energy pressing against me or trying to come out through me. I'm not sure what. So it says that one of the sources in Torah says that a person that it can be a sign, a warning sign, an eclipse, but not if you're doing the will of God. Osei Ratzon, I guess Hashem, I don't remember the exact word for God that's used in that verse. But so on the simple level, we read it, if I'm being okay, if I'm doing what God wants, so then I don't have to worry. But the way the Rebbe pushed it out at the end is that Osei means to do the will of God, but it also means to make. So we can read it either way. So one level is that we do the will of God, we're good people, and that's great, and then we don't have to worry. But a much higher level, and the level that needs to come out of us as the pressure increases, pressure like birth, pressure like making a pearl in the oyster, pressure like, turning a coal into diamond, pressure upgrades things that it doesn't destroy. It's our job to let it upgrade us. Anyway, we're meant to ultimately get to such a level of not being under the stars, that so connected to our true selves, to God, to the purpose for creation, for that which we can't see, but that which is pushing up, trying to rise through us, that is seeking to emerge in these times. So the more we're connected to that, and of course to Torah and to the commandments, to mitzvahs, that's God's wisdom and will. It's not a free-for-all. But the more we're connected to that, truly absorb and integrate, truly do the metamorphosis work, the more we are not just doing God's will, we're making God's will. Because God set up the universe out of his free will and desire that he wants initiation from us. He wants more than anything that we should take the lead. Now, it's not a free-for-all, like I said. So when we are aligned, when we share the vision, when we have integrated it as part of our own beings, when we feel it from the inside, when it's our passion, God's vision is our vision, then we have so much say. Then we can rise to the point where we're making God's will. So I'm looking at the chat for a second. Hi, Edna. Hi, Gila. I'm in such a weird energetic state. Yeah, isn't it strange, Jennifer? Like this, all of a sudden, like eclipse. Ooh, it's the end of the world. It's the beginning of the world. It's downloadable. It's the new timeline. I've literally read things on Twitter like that. They're going to create the white hats have turned and they're going to create a hole in time, and the whole Earth is going to go into a new timeline, and everything's going to. I mean, if it happens, okay, I'll meet you for the dance in the streets, but I don't expect that. I do expect something, because there's no way that we're all feeling this much energy and there's nothing happening. Even if we take into account that people are trying to make us feel things, there is something happening. Also, as I said in the last live stream that I did, by the time the eclipse starts, it's already going to be in Israel, Rosh Chodesh Nisan, which is the beginning of the year, in the inner sense of the year, in the miraculous and redemption sense of the year. And we, on Rosh Chodesh Nisan, the Rebbe said that we are getting a complete, vast, incalculable download of new powers to do miracles and to create redemption. And that it's up to us, starting on that day, to receive those and to integrate them and to start to do miracles by our nature. So, and he said at the time that I mentioned before in the last live stream, that this was in 1989 that he said this, and he said it's already over 3,300 years that this has been happening, since the Torah was given, and we've been receiving this. And I see it as like it keeps coming in, and you stuff it in the closet, it comes in, stuff it in the closet, comes in, and stuff it in the closet. And so we have this overwhelming, and now we're about to get a new one. With everybody, remember I said that the collective attention of people spiked the Earth's electromagnetic field. So incoming with that is already this new, completely miraculous potential. So it's very, very intense. But our job is to raise ourselves to a level where we are partners with God. Now that's something that doesn't happen by itself. You have to earn it. You have to earn it through being it. Let me see what you guys are saying. Ephraim Palvanov says, it's interesting eclipse because it passes over all the major Jewish communities in the U.S. I did not remember that. Hi, Leah. So nice to see you here. Copper is less magnetic than iron. Moving from iron to copper. Bronze is lightening up. We're sending hi, Yona from Oregon. What will happen? That is a very good question. We could speculate on that. What do you think will happen, Edan? Gil had a significant turning point around the time of an eclipse related to a revelation from God. Cool. Okay, so I want to say some more about this co-creation thing, because as many of you probably know me from back then, I started out online doing telesummits and interviewing some really well-known people in the New Age healing, energy healing, thought leadership. I interviewed probably the most famous people, globally famous, I interviewed were Edgar Mitchell from Apollo 17, James Redfield from Celestine Prophecies. Most of the others were either teachers, Hasidus teachers, or well-known founders of healing modalities. Anyway, the people that I met then that, became part of my community, the thought stream in that market, it was kind of like all about staying above the fray, like floating above the challenges of life, seeing everything in a positive way. And there was a point, I'm less connected to that community now, so I'm less tuned in, but people were, years ago already, people were walking around saying, I'm God, you're God, we're all God. And I had like a dual feeling about it, because on the one hand, there is something very deeply true that should be pursued in that. There's a thread of deep truth, but also, the part of people that goes around saying, I'm God, I control the universe, that's not the part of you that's God. That is not the part of you that's God. So there is a God. So this is what I want to say about lights and vessels, because I think it's really important. If we're going through a genuine, you guys, close your eyes for a second. If you don't mind, just close your eyes for 1 second. And be in touch with what's going on in your body. Now, I don't know if you feel like me. Like I've been saying this whole time, I'm feeling this massive, almost confusing energy that's a little too big, or a lot too big for my vessels. What are vessels? Vessels are whatever helps you express the light. Light is potential. Consider light equal potential. Vessels. A vessel is a means or mechanism through which potential can be manifested. So a light bulb is a vessel for light, for electricity. A motor is a vessel for electricity to make things move. A light bulb is a vessel for light to go on. The electric wiring is a vessel. The transformer is a vessel. The waterfall or the nuclear plant or whatever is a vessel. Your body is a vessel. Every cell is a vessel. Every thought is a vessel. Your emotions are vessels. Moments of time are vessels. Relationships are vessels. A laptop is a vessel. Pretty much everything's a vessel. That's not pure raw potential. So in our relationship with, I asked you to close your eyes. I want you to just feel what's going on. And if probably a lot of people here are energy sensitive. So see if you can open your receptors, open your antenna, your little mini satellite dishes, and kind of intentionally connect, just not to mix energy, but just to feel into like what's happening in the world, the focus of people. Like just tune in a little bit to the energy and see what you feel. I'm curious to hear. Let's just do this for about 10 more seconds, 15 seconds, and then I want to hear from you. And you might feel sensations in your body. You might feel nothing. You might see images. You might hear words. I have no idea. There's so much going on here right now. So much. So if I open my eyes, if you want to share anything, please do. Greg Braden has been stepping up. Oh, you're right. Greg Braden. Is he as famous as James Redfield? I interviewed Greg quite a few times. What a doll. What a doll. What do you feel he done? Specifically, Jennifer feels many people in fear and confusion scattered like dots. It's probably very good to feel like we can do this, even like throughout the next day. My ears are ringing off the hook. Yona says, a stirring, murmuring, questioning energy rolling like waves that are rising but not breaking. Isn't it funny that we talk like this now? I don't think we used to talk like this. But yeah, this is the only way to talk now, really, right? How else do you describe these things? Yeah, I kind of feel like that. Rising but not breaking. People in fear, chaos, pictures. So I think I got on feeling like I had to get on, but not being sure what I was going to say. I do want to talk about lights and vessels, but maybe because this is where we are. We all want God now here in this earth. Yeah. Why don't we just do a quick visualization and close our eyes again and just imagine that you are a tree and that your roots go very, very deep. Like you can send those roots down, or you can feel into the earth. It's energetic. And maybe they go all the way through the earth and out the other side, or just deep into the earth, whatever works for you. I see the roots of my tree as being the tzaddikim, those collective souls. And for some reason, because of an experience I had in Hebron in the Cave of the Patriarchs, I feel that Avraham Avinu is the bedrock of that energy, the soul's root in the bedrock, which is immovable, immutable, always existed, always will exist. So Abraham is very interesting as a figure in this time also, because it's really clear for those of us who are like a lot on social media and following the Patriot movement, whatever, that there is a whole lot of people that are holding deep misunderstandings about Torah. Some of them are, from other religions. Some of them maybe from the Jewish religion, but there's also a large group of people who are against religion, understandably, who have, instead of religion, have adopted Sumerian mythology, ancient Sumerian mythology. Those are the people who talk about the Anunnaki and, Enki and whatever. Those are all, I don't know if you know, but those are all figures from ancient times, literally from the time of Abraham. Probably some of them, the story of Abraham is that his father sold idols. And one time he started to question the nature of reality and what is the ultimate force that is making things be and running things around here. And the stories say that he checked out if it's the sun, but then the sun went down. Interesting to do with an eclipse, right? The sun went down and the moon came up, so maybe it's the moon, but then in the morning the moon went down and the sun came up. And somehow, I'm sure his process was actually more sophisticated than that, but that's the way we look at the simple story. Somehow he intuited and literally made a connection with that there is one being, one creative consciousness, one ultimate source of everything that is completely unified, indivisible, and yet can enclose itself like little, like as if you, like branches, little twigs of a mighty tree that can enclose itself in trillions and trillions and trillion is not even, there are trillions of cells in the body. I mean, I can't even imagine when you multiply it times people, and then you go to atoms and molecules and quarks and planets and galaxies and dimensions. There's no numbers that could be sufficient as vessels. But then, part of connecting to infinity and as a reality is to see that our vessels can't do it. Like when the mind says, I can't, what? That's actually growing vessels to understand things that are above the linear mind. So just know that this is good for you. It's good for you to wonder about these things. But Abraham Avinu, Abraham our father, was buried in Hebron in Israel, in this cave of the patriarchs. So he literally connected to the one God, the source of everything, the essence of everything, the true being of everything. That's what it means when we say I'm God, because there is only one. But the ego hides it, doesn't express it, not yet. Anyway, so he went, the Torah tells us he went and he broke all his father's idols, got into trouble. He had to run away. He was in the city of Sumeria, I believe he was in Ur of the Chaldees. So all of these, this whole thing, if you've heard about the I don't want to say the name, we're not supposed to say the name, but the Elohim, that's how we would say it, like all the misunderstandings that, and crazy theories that people have, it's all based on ancient Sumer, the very idols that Abraham smashed. Isn't that weird? Isn't that interesting? Like we're back there. We're forward to there because, and here's the thing, the ultimate, maybe you saw, there was a little meme going around that talked about 4 and 8 because the earthquake in New York, New Jersey, the tri-state area, or maybe it's the Pennsylvania too, it's more than 3 states. That was a 4.8 earthquake, apparently the biggest one that happened in 140 years, whether it was natural or not, I don't know, but still it happened. So that's 4.8. Then the eclipse is tomorrow, that's April 8th, 4/8. And then the verse in the story of Moses and the Exodus by the burning bush, number 4/8 of Shmos of Exodus of that story is God telling Moses that if they don't heed the first sign, there'll be another sign. So here we have this 4 8s, and then Ani brilliantly came up just a few hours ago with this thought that if you reverse 4 and 8, so you had 8, 4, and in Hebrew that's the letters chet, which is 8, and daled, which is 4. And if you put one God, aleph at the beginning before the 8 and the 4 in Hebrew and Gematria, you have aleph, chet, daled, which is echad, which means one. And really, this is no accident and no coincidence. Also, the Zohar tells us that God in these times predicted long ago that God in these times will bring back all of the big players, those who persecuted the Jewish people, and they'll all be here to be part of the great takedown. So and all the souls, Rabbi Avram Satan said that all souls are back. All the souls are back in this generation, which I hadn't heard anywhere else. But it still makes sense. We're here, and different sources tell us that we're here to do the final rectifications and whatever. But what is the essence of the final rectification? What's the essence? Anybody want to say what's the essence of everything? What was the message that God sent Moses with? I mean, it was let my people go, but why should Pharaoh listen? Why? And what was the reason why God wanted, what was the rest of that sentence? Anyone know? Let my people go so that? Anyone? I'm looking at the chat while I'm waiting. My roots are going from Georgia to Israel. As the waters cover the sea, we will know God. As I'm standing, the energy pushes backward. When I bring Ein Od, meaning there's nothing else, into the meditation, it pulls forward. Interesting. The letters of God's name, Yud Kei Vav Kei, the vacuum some say is a crystal. I'm sensing an energy frequency of anger and fear. Oh yeah, for sure. I heard Abraham found Adam buried there, so he bought that area. So they can worship me. Exactly. But what is worship? You know, I want to modify the word worship because it's, you know, worship is like, oh, you're so great. And we do say that to God, like, you know, it's a training process. It's an acknowledgement. But really, the ultimate worship is to become one with. The ultimate worship is to understand so deeply that you activate that within you, that there's no separation. That all of these, you know, the ego and the body keep us as individuals. That's the nature of our being. We couldn't exist without those things. We would not have free choice. We couldn't be co-creators. The body is what makes the story real. I'm thinking about that so much. The body is what makes things real. And whatever cellular wiring you have in your body and in your cell receptors, that's what's going to be real to you. Whatever your nervous system tells you is real, that's reality. There's so many, I don't even know, I could say infinite. Is it infinite? I don't know how many actual possible versions of reality exist right here, right now. Maybe it's infinite. But the one that we, you know, all worlds, I know that all worlds, that the spiritual worlds and the physical world, God created myriad spiritual worlds, and especially 4 macro spiritual worlds, really 5, but whatever. Anyway, all those worlds exist here and now, but we are not on the level of consciousness. We are not vessels to connect to them in a conscious way. So we're raising ourselves as we raise ourselves and shape ourselves to become, and that's really the meaning of worship. Avod, to serve me, really means comes from the word avodah, which means to work, like to work clay, you know, to rectify something means to move it, to up level it so that it's a vessel for a higher order, for a higher level of complexity, a higher level of truth. So as we do this work, and this is part of what all of this is to bring out from us. I mean, my goodness, you know, in Israel, it's not enough that it's 6 months of insanity, you know, starting with incredible travesty, but now they're threatening us with Iran, like beat them up with Iran, you know. It's like, come on already. And every part of the world is, you know, the threats are rising, whether how much of them, you know, are like, I saw a video not so long ago, a couple weeks ago, from the 60s, which it was a show, it was a TV show, but some guy from an agency was recruiting some other guy to write news for 10 years ahead of time and explain that we control the people by creating the stories and telling them what's real. And most of the time they don't know what's real or not. So like they do physical things because the body makes the story real. Sometimes they do horrible physical things just to have an anchor for the vision that they made up. But I don't know how much is real and how much is made up, and probably almost nobody else does either. So I just want to say that, like, I think the less fear we have, the better. And at the same time, the more we take things seriously, like this is what God is presenting us with. What is the purpose? Where is it pulling me? What strengths am I bringing out of lifting these weights? Where am I being called to move, and what's being called forth from me? This is really, really important. And every one of us is in a different place. In terms of lights and vessels, when the Jewish people accepted the Torah ultimately on behalf of all humanity, to carry it, to decode it, to elaborate it, to write it, to live it, to validate it in real life, to show, to hold to it in the face of every possible persecution and opposition and attempts to destroy it and us. So all of that embedded the world, the very nature of the body and the ego and clashes of culture and beliefs, embedded this as the victor, just like Moses was the victor over Pharaoh. Why? Because Pharaoh said, I am God, and Moses said, God sent me. So that's a subtle and vast difference. So in the same way, when we want to carry that message that God sent me, and we have to do it in a way of balance of lights and vessels. So when the Jews accepted the Torah, they accepted it with two words. We accept it with two words. Na'aseh was one word, and nishma was the other word. Na'aseh v'nishma, we will do it. That's the usual translation, and then we will learn it. So what does this mean on a deeper level, at least as I see it? Na'aseh is we will train ourselves by letting go of our own human consciousness, that's to the point that in any situation you put us in, God, no matter how hard, no matter how insane, no matter how much opposition, no matter how intense and fierce and painful that opposition, we will keep your Torah, binding contract from way above the world. And that happened. And that, so to speak, proved the aliveness and the freedom of the souls, proved it. What does it mean, proved? It means that it brought it out in a way that it dominates over reality. But what about Nishma? We will understand it, we will learn it. So in the simple sense, that means learn, but on the deeper sense, that means that is connected to the Nishma the word Nishma is connected to the word Shema, is connected to the word to hear. And hearing, according to Hasidus, is the quality of the left brain to absorb information until it transforms the wiring. Once that happens, your whole brain, because your brain is physical, but what it absorbs is metaphysical. It's thoughts, it's information, it's wisdom, it's knowledge, it's divine knowledge in this case. So when your brain actually absorbs like a sponge, you learn it so deeply that it's absorbed, it's permeated, the brain wiring changes, and now you have merged spiritual divine wisdom with a physical human brain, and now you're a player. Now you're a real player. And Nishma happens on higher and deeper levels all the time, because as our illusions or expectations or sense of predictability is smashed, as we have new experiences, whether they're exciting, I can see energy now, I can hone in on a person and see actually what's going on in their inner being. Did I ever know I could do that? I never did, but I can. Now I can ask questions and get answers inside of my being. Did I ever imagine I could do that? No, but I can. I can feel energy with my hands. Did I ever imagine I could do that? No, but I can. So I know that many of us are sharing, these kinds of experiences, and those are the happy ones. And then there are the other ones, do I think I could understand this? No, but I can. I do. Whatever it is that's, so subtle. Even the language that we use here. And then there are the other things that shake us up and scare us and give us pain, like so many times. Even while I'm doing this challenge and I'm wearing my bracelet, I decided, by the way, I have a hack. It got to, it's hard to take it on and off and switch. So I decided every time I have the negative thought, I spin it to the left, delete, and then 3 times to the right, and I reframe, or I just say, positive, whatever it is. So even with all of that, I'm like, this world, this trauma matrix, no, enough, like enough. And even that, I would have never dreamt of saying something like that. I would have felt just like a victim of it. It's not that I never do. It's not that, I woke up anxious. And then I worked on it. I worked on myself. And at this point, so the first thing I want to say is lights and vessels. We want to be honest with ourselves and know it's the 28th of Adar. Here it's already the 29th of Adar. We're heading to the end of this month of Adar into the new year on Rosh Chodesh Nisan. And tomorrow is the eclipse. So we want to do what we do in Elul before the actual physical Rosh Hashanah. We do what's called a cheshbon nefesh, which means we take stock of ourselves. We examine and see, where am I? Where am I compared to where I could and should be? What is it that I need to rectify? What is it that I need to take on? What vessels do I have to change? What vessels do I have to create? What do I want? And what vessels will align with that? And in the next live that I do, which I hope will be sooner, I would like to start talking about how to activate our imaginal selves. But right now, I think we have to be with the time where we are right now. And so we do the same thing in Adar, but we do it through happiness, through joy, and we do it through anticipation of becoming more miraculous. And we have to do it in a balanced way. We have to be truth. If there's an ultimate, people like to say that God is love, and of course God is infinitely loving, and love is, primary emotion and a healing emotion. But God is not love. If God was only love, where does all the rest of this all come from when there's only one? So if you have to come up with one word to describe God, it has to be truth. God is truth. So when we midas ha'emes, the quality of truth is incredibly powerful. If you know about nines, how I forgot how to explain it. Maybe somebody here knows what the trick with nines, but the reason that nines always turn out to be nines is because 9 is the number of truth. 8 is the number of above nature, of Mashiach, of the messianic potential, of above nature coming into nature. 7 is the number of the rectified nature. It's the days of the week, and every number has its power. But 9 is truth, and we have to be with truth. So every person here, and this will be the assignment with this live for the challenge, to actually look at, what do I really want? What am I here for? And those two things are intimately connected. Where am I aligned? Where am I not? Where have I sold myself short? Like lost my temper just because I'm anxious and I don't want to deal with my feelings, so I just blast it out on someone else. Or I'm a victim, so I need someone else to be something that they're not, so that I don't have to be what I'm here to be. Or I have a desire and I just keep doing the opposite. I want to be fit, but I keep eating bonbons and watching TV, whatever it is. Or I want to be close to God, but only on my terms. I want to be close to God, but I'm mad. If you're mad at God, totally legit. I go through that a lot. Talk about it. Like, are you in the relationship or are you not? Relationship is honest. And if you were in a human relationship that was your core relationship, this is it for you, and you're upset and you're confused, what would you say? What would you do? So that would be emet, that would be truth. So we have to each know where we are, because we all have this vast infinite potential. That's our light. And more of that is coming into the world all the time. And right now, can you believe the eclipse is tomorrow? And Rosh Chodesh Nisan is tomorrow night? Come on. In the most cataclysmic, messianic time in all of history, and we're going to get a new influx of miraculous powers, but we have to earn them again. We have to make vessels. We have to have the right vessels in order to properly understand What is the nature of reality? What is the nature of my being? What is the nature of this creation? What's the purpose for it all? What is the oneness that I am here to embody? And that is a process, but the initial commitment, like when the Jewish people accepted the Torah, they didn't figure out the process first. That's one of the incredible, that activated an infinite supernatural power, by the way. That is what activated the supernatural nature of the Jewish people. Like Mark Twain beautifully talked about, like, what is the nature of the Jew? Nothing can destroy him. No nation, the nations greater than he have disappeared in in the ash dump of history and ash heap of history, and the Jew remains thriving. His power is not diminished. His brilliant brain. I don't remember exactly the words, but something like that. What makes this supernatural? It's the mission. It's the fact that the Jewish people said, when God said, will you take my wisdom and will and live it in this crazy world that I've created, this matrix of trauma that I've created, wherever I will send you, whatever will happen, will you remain loyal? Will you know the truth? Will you live the truth even when everything in you says, how could this be? And the Jews said, Nase, yes. And that yes embedded us with a totally supernatural power that nothing can ever destroy us. And that power is available. We all came from one soul, and that soul came from one God. But we each have to know as individuals, each of us is like a centerpiece. Like if you imagine the world as a vast web, and like with nodes, 8 billion nodes, each node is the center of the world. And each node is meant to say to himself, or each commanded to say to ourselves, Bishvili Nivra Olam, the world was created for me. But that's not just an entitlement. And most of the time I'm out here saying, God loves you. And yes, God loves you. And we need to switch from the trauma matrix to a co-creation matrix. That's absolutely true. But today I feel, because of the eclipse, I guess, and because of what I've read about it, and because of the energy that I'm feeling, and because this is the time for truth, and because Adar is ending and Nisan is coming, and this is the time also for tshuva from joy, for repentance and awakening and preparation from joy. So where are your vessels in terms of your light? And I want you to hear this in a deep way. Like, where are we, and what are we, and why are we here, and what is real? And close your eyes again and just be with that question. Just for a minute. And also, if you want, where is God? And can you feel God? Because I do believe that that's possible now, though it wasn't before. The snake separated us. And believe me, it's still trying to separate us, but the souls are rising. And essentially, we're not separated. So what is this here? And what are you, and what's real? And what is God? And what is God's relationship with you? So just leave some silence around that for a few seconds. And then you want to look at your vessels. Where are your vessels? Where are your vessels strong and flexible and getting more so? Where are your vessels attuned to more infinite realms and more infinite light? Where are you flexible in moving forward? Where are you able to stay connected to those deep roots, to that bedrock, even in the middle of a storm? How much of you is inside of this snow globe, this limited imposed reality, which is so important? This is where the action is. And how much of you, while being in here, is able to at least sense things from outside and maybe even connect to outside of the snow globe? If you know what I mean by the snow globe, those little plastic or glass things that, little man, woman standing in front of a little house with a little tree, and you shake it and the glitter comes down. So that's what life is like for us. That's what this matrix is. We are so huge, incomprehensibly vast. That snow globe is, imagine holding it in your hand, the whole universe. That might be more like the relative size of a soul. But where's your consciousness? In that, your consciousness is vessels, every aspect of it. Your brain wiring is vessels. Your cell receptors are vessels. Your frequency is a vessel. The way you speak to yourself is a vessel. The way you speak to others is a vessel. The way you've trained people to relate to you, those are vessels. Your belief system, those are vessels. The people you're connected to, the community, the morphic field you're connected to, all of those are vessels. How much you know, vessels. The way that your emotions work, vessels. So where are your vessels in comparison with your light? And I really want you to, again, close your eyes and feel into this. Because there's nothing more serious than reality. And reality is not what we see when we look out the window. Reality is what we feel pushing up against us. Boom, 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 boom. Vast, wholly undefined, cosmic, unknown. So the assignment is to look at your vessels and your light in specific ways. So I'd like to suggest choosing between now and tomorrow. Like now, you can do it now and share here. A couple of areas at least where you'd like to work on where you're willing to work on your vessels, where it's important to work on your vessels in preparation for the new year, Rosh Chodesh Nisan, the new influx of miraculous potential that never existed before, that we are commanded to download and integrate. It's got to become ours. Here's the thing about lights and vessels, that potential is light. Without the vessels, we can't hold it. It'll hover around us, but we can do nothing with it. In fact, it can cause problems. Too much light compared to vessels, too few or too small vessels, can cause symptoms, a lot of them. So we need God's help in this, but at least to really seriously start thinking about it. And remember that an eclipse is a warning. It tells you that there are influences in the world that could cause people to make mistakes, that could cause people to sin. And we are not to be under the influence of those influences. We are meant to be the influencers of them. But that happens only when we deeply align. Like we can do God's will easily. I mean, it could be a struggle, but give charity, be kind when you don't feel like it or when you do feel like it. You do any of the mitzvahs. If you're not giving charity, tzedakah, which doesn't mean the translation of tzedakah is righteousness, justice. So everybody, Jewish or not, should have some kind of vessel in your home where you put at least once a day a couple coins, and with the intention of giving it to a good cause or a poor person when there's enough there. And that makes you a partner. Tzedakah is extremely powerful. It brings geula and it saves from death. And it is called the mitzvah. Often, this month of Nisan is called the ha-chodesh, the month. So whatever it is that you do, it's not so hard. There's so many mitzvahs. There's so many. Every moment in the day, you could be doing something. You could be learning something from Torah. You could be saying a prayer. You could be working on yourself, upgrading a little bit. You could be helping someone else. You could be sending good thoughts, good blessings. All of those things are mitzvahs, and there's so many more. But that's when we do things from the nasa level, that I will do it, like the superficial, the action level. It's so important. But at this point in history, we're meant to bring, it's like the tip of the iceberg that's necessary. It's like the skin It's like the structure, like the outline of the painting. Without that, you can't have the painting. But it's time to fill it in. What do we fill it in with? Our essence, our being. And for that, we have to work much harder. For that, we have to examine ourselves. What are my vessels? What am I really? Where's the gap? As I'm being shaken, as I'm in the not knowing, or as I'm in the distracting flurry of everybody having an opinion and everybody saying things like, I didn't watch this video, but I saw a title of a video that Israel has the red heifers and they plan to slaughter it and say no. And I didn't know if you were supposed to say no to the red. This is somebody I actually listen to sometimes, I didn't listen to the video, so I don't know if it was like, if the title was accurately, if the title was saying say no to the red heifers. I mean, do they know do they know anything? The world is very confused. The world is very confused. And we are confused. And I am confused, not all the time. And the confusion is also a broken down vessel, an insufficient vessel is just a prompt to create a deeper vessel, to let go of that and to do an inquiry and to come up with something bigger, better, more flexible, more true, more infinite, more capable of holding a deeper, more infinite light. So the more true we are, the less confused we are, the more connected we are, the more we will be vessels for the world to bring in truth in a healing and soothing way. Things don't have to break. They do have to change. Like death, think about death. The premise of my book is like, does death actually have to happen? And I know that might sound crazy. I've mentioned it before, but the Rebbe actually said that if we can reach the level in this time of nafshika afar lakol tihiyeh, we say this in our prayers. We say, let my soul be as dust to all. So if we can reach that level, what does that mean? I think that means the quantum, going back to a state of quantum superposition, like, okay, whatever, I'm here. I'm here observing. I'm here expanding. I'm here rectifying. I'm here listening. I'm here opening. I'm here connecting. To really have that face-to-face relationship with ourselves that are unknown to us, and to God, who is also largely unknown to us. I think that might be the pathway. But in any case, why has death been needed? Because we have to change, we have to raise out of this frequency of stuck, the stuck ego, the stuck, all of this that happened with the fall from the eating of the tree of knowledge, where our perspective became squished instead of all-encompassing and true, became squished and biased and distorted. And all the emotions that go with that, and all the associations that go with that, all those myriad vessels. So we seem to need to rise to a higher frequency so that all of that falls off, and we're in a state of new potential to come back in a new incarnation. But what if we can raise that frequency without dying? And why shouldn't we be able to? So what if we could see our life review and see and feel the light within the body intentionally and proactively and purposefully in prayer, and in utmost sincerity and willing to do the work to align, and in connection with a community, an amorphic field. This is God's vision, and what effect would that have on the way that prophecies unfold? Because as I said, prophecies are malleable, completely malleable, but they can't be skipped. So they have to have their intended effect. So can we be malleable? And how malleable can a human being be intentionally, an illuminated human being? Anyway, I want to see what you guys have said. Francis Scott Key Bridge mishap happened on March 26th. The same day that U.S. slapped Israel in the face. Maybe. I don't think Mashiach came with this much bloodshed on earth. I'm with you on that, except that the prophecies aren't. It's one of the things that has been really annoying me, to put it mildly. Like, why does it have to come with turbulence, and maybe it doesn't have to anymore, but It takes a lot to shake us out of our stuck place. It takes so much. I mean, how many people have have gotten a diagnosis, Lolano, God forbid, how many people have gotten a diagnosis and not wanted, and their doctor tells them they have like very little chance, but they don't want to hear about any other possibilities because, like, I'm comfortable with it, like I smoked all my life, I'll just keep smoking, whatever it is. And I'm not putting it down, I'm not trivializing it. It is so intensely difficult to change who and what we are. That's exactly what the Rebbe said, and I will talk about this in the next live more. That's exactly what the Rebbe said we need to do now to download this energy. We need to go beyond our identity. We need to go beyond our identity. But here we want to do it from a place of this deep connection and joy of what we are. And sometimes, joy can be exuberant, but it can also be deeply knowing and connecting, not from separateness. I'm not small. I'm not unworthy. I'm vast and not yet fully aligned. And how can I joyfully surrender to that and allow myself to be helped and also to help, to be in partnership with God and working on me? Because that's the purpose. Katie had a thought on Shabbat. What might it mean that during the new moon, when we see the least amount, we'll see the full moon? Oh, that's really interesting, Katie. Wow, that is exciting. I think you're onto something here. Yeah, because the new moon, the eclipse is always on a new moon, as far as I understand. When the moon is closest to the sun and it's not reflecting anything, it's essence to essence. But in this case, yes, because the sun is backlighting the moon will show up when normally you can't see it. And the whole thing will show up. So we actually have a kind of a dark full moon at the time of no moon, the new moon, right before the new moon. It's actually when it's darkest. It's hours before the new moon. Wow, Katie. Wow. You should share that. That's a very interesting thought. Okay. Yeah, you have to hear from your higher self. I'm just scrolling through because we're over an hour again. Okay. Rabbi Anava, bravely traveling. Yeah. You have to be brave everywhere now, don't you think? Thank you, Edna. Hear, oh, Israel means hear from your higher soul. That is exactly what it means. That's right. Well, actually, you're asking your higher soul, your inner soul, to hear also, to hear that God is one. It's both. Okay. Okay, Jennifer, you might want to upgrade, because if God is one, then God is everything. Then that requires us to have that's more like the graduate level study of God. How can God be everything and still be love? And for that, we need a much bigger picture. For that, we need to start understanding that we're eternal and we're infinite. This is just a blip, but we want to make the blip good. That's how we bring on the eternity. That's our job here. The destruction of stability in the world inspires a truth seeking that isn't there when things are normal and okay. So true. Okay, yeah, Jonas, so nice to see you here. The energy just happens to, the energy is, yeah. Okay, before we go, it's not just because it's live, it's because that's the energy right now. I had to fight with myself so hard to even get on. I was sitting here for a long time talking to my friends and chatting with my Gila and Ani. I can't live stream. Should I just let it go? But I think that's because sometimes the energy just pushes, and it's so much, you don't have the vessels for it. So I'm sure that's true. When, again, I said before, and I want to say this one more time, when there's a lot of light potential and the vessels aren't there, so we resist it unconsciously or consciously, and it comes out in symptoms. The symptoms could be irritability, could be anger, could be failure, could be circumstances. Circumstances are also symptoms, could be physical. So we just have to be, we can't just like make vessels. Make the biggest and first way to make vessels is just to connect to what's happening within you with a larger frame, with a larger space, with a larger sense of context of, oh, this is new potential, new light. Let me just be with the out of alignment discomfort that I'm feeling without judging it. Where is it in my body? How can I connect to it? Is it moving? Ask questions about it. Like, but I mean, neutral questions like what color is it? Does it have a shape? Does it have a temperature? Is it moving? Is it deep? Is it shallow? Like you want to just focus on that energy, and that when you turn your loving attention onto the energy that your body's actually registering it instead of like consciously or unconsciously, I feel weird. What's going on? Yeah, why did you not, or shutting down. So when we do that, we're actually creating vessels. It doesn't, it's not, most of the time we're not like planning what the vessel's going to be. We're just being with what is in a more all-encompassing and surrendered way. And usually the more we can do this in the state of prayer and awareness of God and asking God to be with us, the better it is also. Anyway, what I want to know before we go is, should I do a Zoom tomorrow? I have to teach. I think the eclipse starts at 2 something Eastern time, and I have to teach until around 2 Eastern time, my private classes group. But I'm wondering would people want to be on, or are you going to be out watching the eclipse? Like in a Zoom, we could actually converse. It's a lot more interactive, even though you guys are being very beautifully interactive. So that's a question for you. Zoom, yes. Too much going on. Maybe I won't be in the mood. Probably I won't be in the mood, but I might do it anyway. Not seeing any response from anybody, so. Because if I do it, I'll send an email to my list and I'll, I need to decide so that there's time. Okay, well, no response. So I guess I won't necessarily plan a Zoom unless something else tells me yes, but maybe a live stream, we'll see. Anyway, we have enough to go on. So as you leave, just close your eyes before we end again. Feel the energy. Feel the question of who you are and what God is and what's happening here. We're not looking for a linear answer. We're not looking for a few words to put in a box. We're looking to open. It's all mostly right now about opening up the old boxes. There's so many. Opening up the boxes that each, group that has opinions and cultures and biases and, different consciousnesses and prejudices and traumas and whatever. We want to open up those boxes. They connect us to specific old morphic fields. So we want to open, and we're doing an inquiry, and we're asking, and then we're listening. And we're looking for where we're out of alignment. And if an action can help shift that would be great. If a conversation could help shift that would be great. If just being with the energy in our bodies can help shift that would be great. If getting up and dancing could help shift that would be great. And then how do I go beyond my identity? That's the question we're going to be working with. I thought I'd be going on live every day, and it's been over a week, so I can't say when this. I'm not sure when, if it's going to be tomorrow or if it's. I have to give myself that leeway, but that's whenever we speak next. We're going to want to be talking about that as a first step to activating the imaginal cells, which is really imperative to do throughout Nisan. What is our vision of the future? And I'll tell you one more thing. We cannot be solids. Like exile equals a body and a consciousness that's solid and stuck. Like the left brain, it knows, it's a know-it-all. It knows everything. It knows, I know who I am. I know who they are. I know what's possible. I know what's not. I know what's going to happen. I know what I'm capable of. I know that I know that I can. I know that I can't. I know that I will. I know that I won't. I know you. I know how you always do this. All this, and we know, we think we know God. All these things we think we know are keeping us in a solid state that cannot change. And that is a resistance to the new force of energy that's just going to be escalating, amplifying. So we want to become fluid. We raise our frequency. We let go. We surrender. We allow. We feel. We pray. We open. We connect. So practice that. That is your assignment for till the next time. Take care, guys. Love you. What, you know why people say that? Like, why do people say love you when we don't even necessarily all know each other personally? Most of us don't. Because there is a feeling when you're sharing what's coming through you as a, in a powerful way from the inside, and people are there being with you, what opens up is a soul to soul connection. And every soul loves every other soul, a heart to heart connection, likewise. So that's a real thing, just in case you were wondering. And that's just a little bit of where we're going. All right. Our elevation and metamorphosis, our redemption, to be continued.